Sheine works with her mother and their ghost dogs, tracking down missing persons, even when their families can't afford to pay. Their own family was displaced from their traditional home years ago following a devastating flood and the loss of Sheine's father and her grandparents. They don't think they'll ever get their home back. Then Sheine's mother and a local boy go missing after a strange interaction with a fairy ring. Sheine, her brother, her friends, and her lone surviving grandparent, who isn't to be trusted, set off on the road to find them. But they may not be anywhere in this world or this place in time. No matter what it takes or where it takes her, Sheine is going to find them. I am reading to you today from Sheine Lende by Darcie Little Badger. They'd left the trail hours ago, and Sheine worried that the bloodhounds were leading them astray. It seemed impossible for a 6-year-old to wander this far off the beaten path without succumbing to the bull nettles and heat. There was a little shade, but the trees, squat shrub oak, juniper and elm mostly, didn't crowd each other. More often than not, direct sunlight baked the crown of Sheine's head, burning the line of skin down her center part. "Ma, do you have a spare bandana?" she asked. A few steps ahead, her mother, who did not look away from Nellie, the leader of their 3 bloodhound pack, responded, "Did you lose yours?" "Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry." Sheine must have forgotten it alongside the Hirotonic River, the last time she'd gone swimming with friends. She'd have to pick up extra shifts at Pizzadale. Sheine could spend her next paycheck on a replacement. Sheine's mother, Lorenza, untied the bandana around her neck. "Use mine," she offered. With an appreciative smile, Sheine took the patterned square of cotton, which was damp with sweat and smelled like aloe. She folded it in half and fashioned a makeshift bonnet by tying 2 corners under her chin. "Sastillo, Ma. Didn't expect to be outside this long." "When you're searching for a lost child," Lorenza softly countered, "always plan for the worst." Sheine had no response to that. Instead, she checked her handheld compass, noting the direction. They'd been traveling east the whole time, zigzagging from tree to tree, and she suddenly recognized that the lost girl, Mallory, must have been hot, too. So Mallory had turned her back to the afternoon sun, taking relief in patches of shade. But why had the child kept walking on and on? Had she been trying to find a way home? What a nightmare. Mallory's desperation had only made things worse. The girl went missing during a birthday party at about 2 p.m., with everyone gathered around a 3-layer chocolate cake. The party hosts took a head count and realized Mallory was gone. Out of the 48 children and 10 adult chaperones present, only one person, a boy, had noticed Mallory slip under a loose board in the backyard fence and disappear into the wilds of hill country. A quick search had turned up nothing. Although the adults found a couple deer trails, the girl might have followed. All the parents had been called to help. One had known about Sheine's mother and her tracking hounds. It was noon the next day, and Sheine and Lorenza hadn't found Mallory. Bleakly, Sheine wondered how she could plan for the worst-case scenario when she could barely stand to think of it. "Let's rest," Lorenza abruptly said, slumping heavily against an oak tree. "Heel, dogs." Dutifully, the 2 living bloodhounds raised their noses, tails wagging, and scampered to their human's side. However, Nellie's ghostly shimmer passed through a clump of yaupon holly and continued eastward. Some ghost dogs could become fully visible, like holograms, but poor old Nellie never learned that trick, So he always resembled a dog-shaped heat mirage, subtly bending light as it passed through his non-body. He's really keyed into that scent trail, Sheine commented. Good sign, right? The only thing that could entice Nellie from Lorenza's side was a strong scent to follow. He'd been that way in life, too. When the family adopted Nellie from a shelter in McAllen, they'd been looking for a family dog, not a tracker. Old Nellie had been in the shelter a long time. People usually wanted puppies, not senior dogs. But when he'd gazed up at Lorenza with his deep brown eyes, she'd declared, "You're the one." All floppy ears and jowls, Nellie also had a maze of wrinkles on his brow. If those wrinkles made him seem eternally thoughtful, his droopy eyes made him seem like a melancholy dog, but that couldn't have been farther from the truth. The moment Nellie was released from his pen, he'd shuffled up to Lorenza to request head scratches. The day after they brought the old dog home, Lorenza went to work gathering corn, and Nellie promptly dug a hole under the backyard fence, put his nose to the ground, and followed her scent straight to the field. I think he used to be a hunter's pet, Sheine's father had suggested, or a sidekick to a detective like Sherlock Holmes. That's how he learned to find people. Why is he only following Ma then? Sheine had asked. You're the hunter, Pa, and I'm the detective. No, I'm a mechanic who goes fishing on the weekend, he'd corrected. And when did you become a detective? Today. Because you want Nellie as your sidekick? Reluctantly, Sheine had nodded. She could rarely stand to lie. It made her hands clammy, her stomach sick. Good timing, he'd said. My hammer's missing, and I need a detective to... Oh, Grandpa Hugo was using it. That morning, Sheine had observed him fixing the wobbly pantry shelf. He probably left it in the house. For a moment, her father was speechless. Then he'd picked Sheine up and spun around, exclaiming, "Case closed! You don't need a Nellie sidekick, do you?" Not for this, she'd laughed. Not for anything. But that wasn't true, was it? In the wilds of hill country, Sheine tried to keep Nellie in sight. However, she quickly lost track of him. And this has been a preview of Sheine Lende.